guys, it's Steph. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do something different, and Leo is gonna do all the talking because he is an intellectual and has a lot to tell you.
How y'all doing?
I'm just kidding. He doesn't speak English. Anyways, so in this video I'm gonna talk about how I became a front-end developer with no formal education, no computer science degree, no boot camp. So I'm gonna tell you how I made the transition from cancer research into front-end development, how long it took me, how I didn't spend any money, how I stayed on track, and then how I landed my first project. So I graduated from college 2 years ago with a biochemistry degree. I had everything on track to go to med school. A year ago, I had my applications all together. All I had to do was apply as soon as that date hit. I was working in a hospital doing cancer research, and that's kind of when I realized I don't want to be a doctor. So I had a midlife crisis because I had spent so much time and money, and I gave up so much to achieve this dream that I didn't even want anymore. So I kind of started evaluating different career opportunities when I discovered that I liked coding, and I realized pretty quickly it was something I wanted to further explore. So I went down this road of like, do I go back to college and get a computer science degree? Do I do a boot camp? So I quickly decided I couldn't afford to go back to college. I didn't want to go back to college and get a second degree. I didn't think it was necessary. So I started looking into boot camps, and I really wanted to do a boot camp. I thought it was just a more logical way of learning rather than doing it on my own. However, they are expensive. I did not think they would be as expensive as they are. The ones I was looking at ranged anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. The one I really wanted to do was Lambda School. They kind of have it set up differently where you can pay $40,000 up front, or you can attend for free and you don't have to pay until you land a solid job in the tech industry making over 50 grand. However, for the next 2 years, you have to pay them 20% of your paycheck, which is a lot of money. And when you really think about it, the government is already taking out about 22% for taxes. So add another 20% on top of that, you're losing about 42% of your paycheck. Like, this is money you're never gonna see. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Not gonna waste money. I don't have money to spend. So I'm gonna have to do this on my own. Another thing is I was working full time at this moment, and I couldn't afford to quit my job, and so that was another reason why I decided not to do a boot camp. Once I realized that a boot camp was kind of out of the question for me, I was pretty nervous because the idea of learning how to code without any guidance is really intimidating and kind of daunting. But it's definitely possible. I'm here a year later to tell you that I was successful and you can do it. So the first major question I had was, what language should I even learn? And a lot of the boot camps that I was looking at were teaching JavaScript. So I kind of had an idea pretty quickly that JavaScript was what I was gonna learn. And it was solidified by my brother, who is a programmer. He does back-end development. And he said that he likes JavaScript best, and it's really versatile. You can use it for front-end and back-end. And I wasn't sure which direction I was gonna go at the time. So I decided to learn JavaScript. What I ended up doing was first getting a really base knowledge of CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. I talked earlier about Lambda School, which was a bootcamp I was looking at, and they provide this mini bootcamp trial, and for a mini trial, it's not that mini. I went through it probably 3 to 4 times. That took me a good 3 weeks, maybe even a little longer. I was taking really dense notes, going over my notes. They give you practice little problems where you have to come up with solutions. I did those so many times, and if I got it wrong, I would Google and watch videos to understand why I got it wrong and to ensure that I never got it wrong again. So I really recommend finding the Lambda School free mini bootcamp trial, or if there's another bootcamp that you find they have a free trial, like, do all of them. Those free trials are so helpful. That is where I got my base understanding of JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, all from this mini free bootcamp. So really spend the first few weeks focusing on the big picture and getting a general understanding. No need to stress over the little things that you can look up at any time. Understand it, but you don't have to memorize it. You can always reference your notes, use Google, use Stack Overflow. These resources are always at your fingertips. So don't stress and spend time or I should say waste time, trying to memorize all of this. Just gain a basic understanding. After about a month, maybe a little more than a month, I got a really crazy opportunity to be a front-end developer for this startup company. My brother knew the guys who was starting it and they were looking for a front-end developer, and he was like, my sister just started, you should give her a call. So they knew I had just started. I don't think they knew how new I was, like as in I'd never done a project, I've never even applied the knowledge I had gained to a real life situation. However, when I got this opportunity, I jumped for it. I was like, hell yes, I want to do this. So I took a huge risk and I quit my job to be their full-time front-end developer. Now, I got really lucky with this opportunity. I know that's not the norm. You shouldn't expect to get like a full-time position after only 1 month of learning, but it did make me realize how having a project just increases the rate that you learn by so much. I can't explain how much I learned from just doing a real life project. So my next little tip is get a project as soon as possible. If you're not getting paid, that doesn't matter. Even if it's a fake project that you made up for a company that doesn't exist, just start a project. Make a simple landing page or a game or a blog. Do anything, because you're gonna learn so much from applying your knowledge rather than just reading it or listen to someone talk about it. Quitting my job to become a full-time front-end developer when I really didn't know anything about front-end development was kind of crazy. I didn't know what I was doing, so I decided to find a mentor, and I'm really lucky. One of my brother's good friends is a front-end developer, so he agreed to help me through the process. He really guided me through it. You know, the steps I should take with the client, questions I should ask, and he did a lot of code review for me, which was so helpful. If I couldn't find the answer to something online, I always had him, you know, just a text away, and he'd help me solve the problems that arose. So I really recommend finding a mentor who is in the area that you eventually want to get into, whether it's a friend or the friend of a friend, or if you just DM a random person on Instagram or Twitter, or just go into a Reddit forum. I think you will be so happy that you reached out to someone who knows what they're doing, because they can help you so much, especially when it comes to code review. Now, like I said earlier, it's so important to start a project as soon as possible, because that's gonna help you learn so much. However, with that being said, typically in projects, you're gonna use frameworks. So for example, when I started my first project, I used the Vue framework, and they make life so much easier, but you need to be careful, because the biggest mistake I made when learning how to code is switching to a framework too quickly. So I got really comfortable using this framework, but when it comes down to vanilla JavaScript, I'm really not that confident in it. So I'm currently going back and kind of relearning JavaScript from the beginning, but learning it without a framework. So it's good to use frameworks, and I think if you're gonna do a project, you probably should use a framework like Vue. But make sure that while you're getting familiar and comfortable with the framework, you understand the basic vanilla JavaScript that goes behind it. Because eventually, if you want to switch frameworks, you're gonna have to understand vanilla JavaScript in order to be familiar with that new framework. Also, if you want to apply to a corporate job like at Apple or Google, they're probably gonna give you a test where you're not gonna be able to use a framework. You'll have to use vanilla JavaScript. So the biggest mistake I made was not getting completely familiar with vanilla JavaScript and relying heavily on a framework. So just to recap on the biggest takeaways of this video, number one, start a project as soon as possible. You don't have to have a really solid understanding to start your project. The project is gonna give you that understanding. Trust me, it's the best decision I ever made. Even if you're not getting paid, start a project. Number two, try your best to find a mentor. It's gonna make your life so much easier. And lastly, number three, when you start your project, even if you want to use a framework, that's great, but make sure you don't rely on the framework. Learn vanilla JavaScript or whatever language it is you're learning. Do not rely on the framework. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe below. If you're thinking about taking that first step into learning how to program, I really hope you do. It's the best decision I ever made, and it's definitely possible to do without formal education or a boot camp. Take my word for it, and good luck. Say bye-bye. Bye.